Have you ever wondered how the first great civilizations emerged? Long before the pyramids of Egypt and the mighty empires of Rome and Greece, there was an ancient people who laid the very foundations of human society. The Sumerians, the first known civilization in history, flourished in the land of Mesopotamia over 5,000 years ago. They built the first cities, developed writing, and pioneered advancements in law, mathematics, and astronomy. But who were these people? How did they shape the world as we know it today? And what led to their mysterious decline? Join us as we explore the fascinating story of the Sumerians, the pioneers of civilization. The Sumerian civilization is one of the oldest known civilizations in the world, emerging in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, around 4000 before Christ C. It was located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, in a region known as the Fertile Crescent. The Sumerians laid the foundation for urban life, developed the first known writing system, cuneiform script, built complex city-states, and introduced advanced systems of governance, trade, and religion. Sumerian society was one of the earliest examples of urban civilization, organized into independent city-states such as Uruk, Ur, Lagash, Kish, and Nippur. These city-states were self-governing political and economic centers, each with its own ruler, military, religious institutions, and laws. While they shared a common language, religion, and cultural traditions, they often functioned as separate entities, competing for resources and power. Each city-state had its own ruler, who was known as either an ensi or a lugal.ensi. Originally, this title was given to a high priest who acted as a governor or administrator. The ensi was seen as a representative of the gods, responsible for overseeing religious ceremonies, maintaining order, and managing resources such as grain and livestock. Lugal. Over time, as city-states engaged in territorial conflicts, military leaders became more powerful. The title Lugal, which means great man or king, was used for rulers who wielded greater authority, often taking control through conquest or inheritance. The rise of Lugals marked the shift from theocratic rule to more centralized monarchical power. Among all the Sumerian city-states, Uruk was the most famous and influential. Often considered the first true city in human history, Uruk grew into a sprawling metropolis with a population exceeding 50,000 people at its peak, around 2900 before Christ. Uruk was home to some of the most significant innovations of the ancient world, including the development of cuneiform writing, which revolutionized record-keeping and communication. Advanced irrigation systems, which allowed for agricultural surplus and economic growth. The construction of massive temples and defensive walls, demonstrating the city's wealth and power. According to legend, King Gilgamesh, the semi-mythical hero of the Epic of Gilgamesh, ruled over Uruk. His story, preserved in one of the world's oldest literary works, reflects the ambitions, struggles, and beliefs of the Sumerian people. The political and social structure of Sumerian city-states laid the foundation for future civilizations, including the Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian empires. Their innovations in governance, law, trade, and urban planning influenced societies for millennia. The idea of independent yet interconnected urban centers, each with its own ruler and economic system, would later be mirrored in the Greek city-states, medieval European kingdoms, and modern nation-states. The Sumerians were not only pioneers of writing and agriculture, but also the architects of organized civilization as we know it today. The Sumerians invented one of the first writing systems, cuneiform script, which they inscribed on clay tablets using a stylus made of reed or wood. This revolutionary invention marked the beginning of written history, enabling humans to document ideas, laws, and transactions for the first time. Writing transformed Sumerian society, allowing for the efficient administration of cities, the expansion of trade networks, and the preservation of cultural and religious traditions. Initially, cuneiform script was pictographic, meaning that each symbol represented a physical object or concept. For example, an image of a bull symbolized bull, while a simple wavy line represented water. However, as society and language became more complex, this system evolved. Over time, pictograms became simplified wedge-shaped marks, which eventually came to represent syllables and sounds rather than just objects. This shift allowed scribes to record abstract ideas, personal names, and grammatical structures, making cuneiform one of the first phonetic writing systems. One of the most crucial uses of cuneiform was record-keeping. In a rapidly expanding civilization, rulers, merchants, and officials needed a reliable way to track trade agreements, property ownership, tax collection, and resource distribution. Scribes, who were highly trained professionals, used cuneiform to inscribe inventories, contracts, and debt records, ensuring that economic activities were well documented and organized. Because of this, cuneiform played a critical role in the growth of commerce and international trade. The Sumerians engaged in trade with neighboring regions, such as the Indus Valley, Anatolia, and the Persian Gulf, exchanging agricultural products, textiles, and pottery for valuable materials like copper, tin, and lapis lazuli. These trade records, written in cuneiform, helped regulate transactions and resolve disputes, making it an essential tool for economic stability. Cuneiform was also instrumental in the development of legal codes, which established order and justice in society. Some of the first recorded laws in human history, including the Code of Ur and Uruk, circa 2100 before Christ, and later Hammurabi's Code, circa 1750 before Christ, were written in cuneiform. These legal texts covered topics such as property rights, contracts, penalties for crimes, and social obligations, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of governance and fairness. The Code of Ur and Uruk, for example, established a system of fines and compensation rather than physical punishment, showing an early attempt at legal equality and structured justice. These laws ensured that people were held accountable for their actions and that disputes could be settled according to a written legal framework rather than personal vendettas or arbitrary rulings. Beyond administration and law, cuneiform also enabled the creation of literature, religious hymns, and philosophical texts. One of the most famous literary works written in cuneiform is the Epic of Gilgamesh, considered the world's oldest surviving epic poem. The Epic of Gilgamesh tells the story of King Gilgamesh Uruk, his deep friendship with Enkidu, his heroic battles, and his quest for immortality. This epic explores universal themes of human existence, the nature of friendship, the fear of death, and the search for meaning in life. Many of its themes and motifs later influenced other ancient texts, including biblical and Greek literature. Additionally, cuneiform was used to document scientific knowledge, mathematical calculations, astronomical observations, medical treatments, and even instructional texts for scribes, showcasing the Sumerians' intellectual achievements. Although it was originally developed by the Sumerians, cuneiform was adopted and modified by multiple civilizations, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, and Persians. Each of these cultures adapted cuneiform to their own languages, ensuring its longevity. Because of its versatility and effectiveness, cuneiform remained in use for over 3,000 years, making it one of the longest-lasting writing systems in history. The decipherment of cuneiform in the 19th century by scholars such as Henry Rawlinson unlocked vast amounts of knowledge about the ancient world, providing historians with insights into Mesopotamian society, economy, governance, and mythology. Although Hammurabi's Code is more widely known today, the first written laws appeared in Sumer with the Code of Ur and Uruk around 2100 before Christ, being one of the earliest preserved legal documents. The Code of Ur and Uruk was created by King Ur and Uruk of Ur, and it holds historical significance as one of the first comprehensive sets of laws that were not only written down but also publicly displayed, providing insight into Sumerian governance, social structure, and legal systems. The Code of Ur and Uruk is characterized by its emphasis on justice, fairness, and social order. Unlike later law codes such as Hammurabi's, which included harsh physical punishments, for example, an eye for an eye, Ur and Uruk's code was notably less severe, often prescribing fines or monetary compensation rather than corporal punishment. This suggests a more equitable approach to justice, focusing on restitution rather than retribution. The Code of Ur and Uruk consisted of a series of laws and decrees that regulated various aspects of daily life, including property rights. The code laid out rules for the protection of property, addressing issues such as theft, damage to property, and the unlawful taking of land or goods. Marriage and family. There were specific regulations related to marriage, divorce, and inheritance, ensuring that familial and social relations were conducted in an orderly and fair manner. Economic obligations. The laws provided a framework for trade, business transactions, and the regulation of debts. Business disputes, including those between merchants, were settled through established legal processes. One of the most significant aspects of the Code of Ur-Nammu was its focus on ensuring social harmony and justice within Sumerian society. The laws were designed to promote fairness, offering penalties for various crimes and regulations on personal conduct. For example, if someone was accused of committing a crime such as theft or damage to property, they were required to pay a fine, typically in the form of goods or money, to the affected party. In cases of more severe crimes, such as assault or murder, the punishments could involve death, but these instances were relatively rare compared to the number of cases where monetary compensation was the resolution. The Code of Ur-Nammu had a lasting influence on later legal systems in the Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian empires, as well as other neighboring civilizations. While it is not as famous as Hammurabi's Code, the Code of Ur-Nammu is considered a precursor to more extensive legal frameworks that would emerge in the region. It is also noteworthy that, much like Hammurabi's Code, the laws were inscribed on stone and placed in public locations to ensure that the citizens of Ur and surrounding regions were aware of the legal standards. This idea of publicizing laws was a revolutionary step in the development of legal transparency and governance, setting the stage for the later rise of written law codes in many ancient cultures. The Sumerians were polytheistic, believing in a vast pantheon of gods who controlled natural forces, human destiny, and the structure of society. Each god had a specific role, influencing everything from the weather, fertility, and wisdom to war, justice, and the afterlife. The Sumerians saw their gods as powerful but unpredictable beings, requiring constant worship and offerings to maintain their favor and avoid disasters such as floods, droughts, or military defeat. Sumerian mythology was complex and deeply intertwined with their daily life and governance. The most important gods included 1. An, Anu, the supreme sky. God An, also known as Anu, was the father of the gods ruling over the heavens. He was often depicted as a distant but omnipotent force, delegating earthly matters to other gods. His main role was to grant kingship, reinforcing the belief that rulers governed by divine authority. 2. Enki, Ea, god of water, wisdom, and magic. Enki was the protector of humanity, known for his intelligence and problem-solving abilities. He was associated with rivers, lakes, underground water sources, and was the patron of craftsmanship and technology. Enki played a key role in Sumerian myths, often acting as a mediator between gods and humans, guiding them through wisdom and knowledge. 3. Enlil, god of wind, storms, and destiny. Enlil was one of the most powerful deities, responsible for storms, winds, and the fate of the world. He was both a creator and a destroyer, capable of bringing fertility through rain or devastation through storms. Enlil was also the god of order and authority, enforcing divine law among both gods and humans. 4. Ishtar, Inanna, goddess of love, fertility, and war. Inanna, later known as Ishtar, was one of the most complex and dynamic deities in Sumerian mythology. She represented both love and destruction, symbolizing passion, power, and chaos. Inanna was the subject of many myths, including the descent to the underworld, in which she ventured into the realm of the dead, demonstrating her dual nature as a life-giver and destroyer. Ziggurats, the religious and political heart of Sumerian cities. The Sumerians built ziggurats, which were massive stepped temples, serving as both religious and political centers of their city-states. These towering structures were dedicated to the patron deity of each city, reinforcing the idea that gods were directly involved in the governance and protection of the people. Sumerian religious beliefs influenced many later civilizations, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. Many of their gods, myths, and temple structures were adopted and adapted into future Mesopotamian cultures. The concept of a divine pantheon, sacred temples, and priestly rule continued to shape religious traditions in the ancient Near East and beyond, making Sumerian mythology one of the most foundational religious systems in history. The Sumerians were among the first civilizations to develop advanced agricultural techniques, enabling them to thrive in the harsh environment of Mesopotamia. Living in the fertile land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, they learned how to harness water, cultivate crops efficiently, and establish trade networks, laying the foundation for the economic success of their city-states. Irrigation and water management. Since Mesopotamia experienced seasonal flooding and long dry periods, Sumerians had to develop irrigation systems to ensure a steady water supply for their fields. They engineered canals, dug to divert water from rivers into farmland, allowing crops to grow even during dry seasons, dams and reservoirs, used to store and control water levels, preventing both floods and droughts. Levees, built along riverbanks to protect fields from destructive flooding. Drainage systems, created to prevent waterlogging and soil degradation. By controlling water flow, Sumerians increased crop yields, enabling their population to grow and their cities to flourish. This mastery of irrigation became the model for future civilizations, influencing agricultural practices for millennia. Innovations in farming. The heavy plow, to further improve food production. The Sumerians invented the heavy plow, which revolutionized farming. Early farmers had to manually till the soil, a slow and labor-intensive process. The heavy plow, pulled by oxen, allowed for deeper and more efficient cultivation, reducing labor while increasing productivity. This innovation made it easier to plant barley, wheat, onions, dates, and other staple crops, ensuring food security for growing urban populations. Since Sumer lacked many natural resources such as wood, stone, and metal, trade was essential for its survival. The Sumerians established trade routes with neighboring regions, exchanging their surplus agricultural products for valuable raw materials. Goods exported by Sumerians, grain. The main agricultural product used for local consumption and trade. Textiles, high-quality wool and linen fabrics, woven by skilled Sumerian artisans. Metal goods, tools, weapons, and jewelry made from imported metals. Goods imported into Sumer copper and tin from Anatolia and Iran, used for making bronze tools and weapons. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. A precious blue stone used in jewelry and religious artifacts. Timber from Lebanon and Persia, essential for construction and boat building. Gold and silver from Egypt and Anatolia, used for crafting luxury items and currency. Sumerian merchants traveled along caravan routes and waterways, reaching distant lands such as the Indus Valley, Anatolia, and the Persian Gulf. Their trade networks contributed to cultural exchanges, spreading ideas, technologies, and religious beliefs across the ancient world. Economic organization and record-keeping. With increasing trade and commerce, the Sumerians needed a way to track transactions and manage economic activities. They developed cuneiform writing to keep records of business contracts and trade agreements, tax collections and storage of goods, wages paid to workers and laborers. Scribes, who were trained professionals, played a crucial role in documenting transactions, ensuring that goods were fairly exchanged and debts were recorded accurately. The Sumerians were among the most innovative civilizations in history, developing technologies and ideas that continue to influence our modern world. Their advancements in engineering, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and everyday life laid the foundation for many aspects of human civilization. Some of their most remarkable contributions include 1. The wheel. A revolution in transport and pottery, one of the most important Sumerian inventions was the wheel, which transformed transportation, trade, and craftsmanship. Transport. The wheel was first used for carts and chariots, making it easier to transport goods, people, and materials across long distances. This allowed for faster trade between city-states and surrounding regions, strengthening the Sumerian economy. Pottery wheel. The Sumerians also developed the potter's wheel, which enabled the production of uniform, high-quality ceramic vessels. This innovation greatly improved pottery-making efficiency, leading to mass production of storage jars, bowls, and decorative items. The wheel was one of the most influential inventions in human history, eventually leading to advancements in vehicles, machinery, and industry. 2. A number system based on 60, the foundation of time and geometry. The Sumerians created a sexagesimal, base 60 number system, which continues to influence our modern way of measuring time and angles. Time measurement. They divided an hour into 60 minutes and a minute into 60 seconds, a system still used today worldwide. This system was essential for keeping accurate record, organizing daily activities, and managing trade. Geometry and astronomy. The Sumerians divided a circle into 360 degrees, forming the basis of geometry and trigonometry. This mathematical knowledge was used in construction, land measurement, and astronomical calculations. Their mathematical innovations influenced later civilizations, including the Babylonians and Greeks, and are still fundamental in modern mathematics, science, and engineering. 3. Astronomy, the first calendar and celestial tracking. The Sumerians were pioneers in astronomy, carefully observing the movements of the sun, moon, and stars to develop one of the first known calendars. Lunar calendar. The Sumerians created a 12-month calendar based on the phases of the moon. This helped them plan agricultural activities, religious festivals, and civic events. Zodiac and astrology. They mapped the night sky and identified constellations, influencing later astrological traditions. They believed celestial movements affected earthly events, leading to the development of early astrology. Their work in astronomy laid the groundwork for later civilizations, including the Babylonians, Egyptians, and Greeks, who expanded on their discoveries. 4. Medicine, the first recorded prescriptions and treatments. The Sumerians made significant contributions to early medicine, recording diagnoses, treatments, and medicinal recipes on clay tablets. Medical prescriptions. Sumerian scribes wrote detailed lists of symptoms and treatments, making some of the first known medical texts in history. These included herbal remedies, poultices, and instructions for preparing medicines. Healing practices. They performed surgical procedures such as setting broken bones and treating wounds. Doctors, or priests acting as healers, combined medicine with religious rituals, believing that diseases were caused by divine forces or spirits. Their medical knowledge was passed down to later civilizations, influencing Babylonian, Egyptian, and Greek medicine. Around 2,000 years before Christ, the Sumerians lost their dominance as new powers rose in Mesopotamia. Their once thriving city-states faced external invasions, internal conflicts, and environmental challenges, which ultimately led to their decline. Despite the fall of their civilization, the Sumerian cultural and technological innovations continued to shape the world for centuries to come.